Joining me now, it's our party panel. We've got the host of the Gary and Shannon Show on KFI AM 640 in Los Angeles. You can see him there. That's Los Angeles. That's Gary Hoffman. We've also got, she's also in LA. She and Gary should really be broadcasting together tonight. We'll make that happen at some point. Democrat strategist, Fox News contributor, also in the City of Angels, Leslie Marshall. And he is the senior editor at Reason. He is a celebrated award-winning author. Robbie Suave rounds out the party panel. So, Gary, I will start with you. John Brennan, James Clapper, even Michael Hayden, they are all crackpots who have lied to the American public repeatedly and even helped craft the apparati to spy on Americans very wittingly, despite James Clapper's perjury. So why shouldn't they be held to account?
Well, if Kevin McCarthy is going to rely specifically on the letter that those guys signed, there was some pretty crafty language in there. I looked it up again today. They said things like, we do not know if the emails are genuine. They said, if we are right, this is Russia, and we do not know whether these press reports are accurate. They wrote it in the letter in a way to cover their asses if, in fact, they get called to the mat, which they're going to be, apparently, with Kevin McCarthy. The better questions that I want them to answer are, okay, so we now know that the laptop was genuine. It was Hunter Biden's. That was crack, not just Parmesan in that pipe. Those were hookers, Parmesan. Whatever. How in the world do you explain to the American public that Hunter Biden is, at the very least, a political liability for his dad, but potentially a national security risk for his dad and for the rest of the United States of America? I want those 51 intelligence officials to at least acknowledge that in the letter part 2, perhaps. Yeah,
I also want to know from them, if you're spying on all Americans, did you keep tabs on Hunter Biden, Leslie, when he was manufacturing some of these very questionable relationships in Ukraine energy and with China, supposedly, and the emails betray the truth. He was making money for his dad, and he was having some of those high-powered meetings while his dad was vice president. And, you know, it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't have like, ah, gosh, you know, my son is a crack addict and he's out of his mind. And then at the same time, have that crack addict enrich himself to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. So shouldn't we have the answers to some of those questions, Leslie?
I think we should have the answer to everybody's questions, because we can't have it both ways. When Ivanka Trump's get patents from China and makes millions when her daddy's president, you can't say, oh, this kid of a president or vice president is guilty and this kid is not. Open it all up. Investigate all of them. I don't want to see an email here and there. I don't want to see edited information. Put everybody out there. Full transparency. Let's get the entire story. But my prediction is that it's going to end up after the 18 bipartisan Benghazi hearings, and we didn't see Hillary going away in an orange suit, and I don't think we're going to see Joe Biden doing that. And honestly, I don't think we're going to see Hunter in an orange suit with cuffs on either.
It's laughable to feign outrage over Benghazi hearings, given what Democrats have been doing with the January 6th hearings. So, no, you don't want it both ways. But what we should have is some accountability here, Robbie.
Yeah, absolutely. And libertarians like you and I, Kennedy, get to take our victory lap, and conservatives should pay more attention to us next time, because we have been warning that national security will be weaponized against ordinary Americans, by the way, and everybody else. We've been warning about that for years and years and years, that they have their own agenda, the state, the FBI, DHS, et cetera, and they have been trying to police the narrative, to sculpt what it is allowed to be discussed on social media. There's been far too much attention to what the social media companies themselves have done. That's not good. Don't get me wrong, it's not good. But when they're doing it at the behest, at almost, frankly, the ordering of law enforcement, law enforcement officials who got things wrong about weapons of mass destruction and on again, every foreign policy question for the last 20 years, these people got wrong, and they are indirectly in charge of what you get to say online. That is wrong, that is criminal, and that is a legitimate source of inquiry for the new Republican majority in the House.
Yeah, and I wish more news outlets would pay attention to that, pay attention to the fact that. And, you know, Leslie, you don't want it both ways. You don't want a Republican president with the head of the CIA and the FBI telling giant tech companies what people who subscribe to their services can and cannot say. But that's exactly what was happening. It's not a yawn. This is a big deal. And, Twitter was... It was a massive abuse of power, not just, the millions of people who use their site, but the fact that they were meeting with DHS, FBI, and the CIA on a regular basis. Now, meanwhile, a political bombshell threatening the Democrats' razor-thin Senate majority, Arizona Senator Sinema. I love her. She's kind of nutty. Announcing she's leaving the Democrat Party to become an independent. Many lefties, obviously very furious, but she had some news for the haters, Kirsten. Still unclear which party Sinema will caucus with. But according to analysis by 538, Sinema has voted with Biden 93% of the time. Her other two independent counterparts in the Senate, Angus King and Bernie Sanders, yes, they're independents, but they also caucus with Democrats. What impact will her move have on the Democrats' agenda? This has to be a breath of fresh air for her and an incredibly powerful position now that she is no longer nominally a Democrat, Gary.
Yeah, it used to be that she was just going to be another Democrat, unlike what she had done with Joe Manchin in this previous Congress. So she kind of vaults herself back into that area. There's a couple of big things that will result from this. More chunky glasses and bare shoulders on the Senate floor.
Nice.
To please you, Kennedy, but also I think to please Robbie. There's going to be a huge shakeup when it comes to the amount of political reflection, the idea that the leaders of both political parties look at this and say, wait a minute, there are members in our caucus that don't necessarily stand for 100% of what we believe in. Maybe we need to be more inclusive. I think that's a great benefit of this, is that there's a possibility that both Republicans and Democrats in the congressional leadership take a pause and say, wait a minute, there is something afoot here. Perhaps 50% of Americans believe that there are not enough moderates in either the Republican or Democrat Party. There's a great unwashed middle, if you want to call it that is just sick and tired of politics, and maybe this is an indication thereof.
Well, certainly they're sick of parties, Leslie, and they're sick of the party games. I talked to a lot of people on this show who are independents. I am an independent. I am an unaffiliated voter. I do not belong to a political party because I am disgusted by the two-party system. Should Democrats worry that Joe Manchin might follow suit and might follow her away from Democrats?
No, because it doesn't matter about the label. It matters when you talk about the agenda, the Democratic agenda, anybody's agenda. It matters how somebody votes. And like you said, Sinema voted 93% with President Biden. Joe Manchin's been acting more like a Republican than a Democrat for years. Now, I'm not really concerned about this. Who should be concerned about this is Sinema. And the reason she should is, one, the people of Arizona elected her as one of the two representatives as a senator of their state as a Democrat, and two, this makes it harder for her when she is up for re-election to win next time around. She's certainly not going to get checks from the Democrats. Independents don't have as big a bankroll.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Leslie. I think Arizonans look at this and go, yes,
of course you do.
Finally. No, Arizona is a very independent state.
You always disagree.
And they like the fact that she stands up to the party establishment. She will not be bullied. She takes their needs into consideration above the party line. And I think that's incredibly popular. You were going to say, Robbie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think she's probably increased her chances of re-election. I mean, the reality is she was going to face a primary in the Democratic Party. So now, as an independent, she can't be primaried, and it almost dares Democrats to run a candidate, and then you could have a scenario where they split some kind of non-Republican vote and a Republican wins. I think they'll be afraid of that. I think she's daring Democrats to stand down, which they might do. I think that's the politics of it. For the broader philosophical point, yeah, you nailed it, Kennedy. It's great to see more independents, even if she's mostly going to vote the same way with Biden, et cetera. You know, there's so many people in this country, I count myself among them, I know you do as well, who are just sick of the party politics and don't feel well represented by either party. So it's just nice to see that even if it doesn't change votes at the end of the day. What can I say? I like a woman in glasses.
Robbie, you are singing my song, young man. I would certainly put a tip in your snifter if you were playing piano here at the Kennedalia Lounge. No, but you're absolutely right, and I hope more people follow suit. And it was very interesting because Tulsi Gabbard, when she left the Democrat Party, everyone's like, I knew it. She's a Republican. I told you the whole time. And it's like, she's not a Republican. She's independent as well. I think it's harder for women to be independent out there because so many people think women need a political pimp. Guess what? We don't. We can make up our own minds, whatever you choose to call us and whatever letter follows our names. Mine, MD. That's absolutely right. Panel, please don't go anywhere. I need you desperately. Breaking news out of the Bahamas. They're out of salmon at the Atlantis buffet. No, actually, police there tonight arresting disgraced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the guy who lost billions of dollars of his clients' money and what looks like a really shady Ponzi scheme, quite a screw-up. He was supposed to testify to lawmakers tomorrow. Instead, the feds expecting to extradite him back to the U.S. to face charges of his own. Now, keep in mind, he donated piles of money to which party? Which party was it? It was, that's right, it was Democrats. So who should be most worried here? The party panel is back. Gary Hoffman, Leslie Marshall, and Robbie Suave. Gary, you and Shannon have talked about this a great deal. Are you surprised to see the arrest tonight?
I am a little surprised, actually. We reported on the fact that that SBF was expected to testify tomorrow. Now I'm going to be most interested to see what John Ray III has to say. He took over as CEO to help drive this thing down into something of a soft landing, if there is such a thing. In a statement that he put out today, he said there was clear, I think the word he used was hijinks, the spending that FTX went on for billions and billions of dollars, buying up properties and businesses and things that ended up being worth, fractions of what they were paid for. I think the best news about all of this, Kennedy, is that maybe this will finally give us an idea of what happened to Henry Potter at the end of It's a Wonderful Life when he was never held accountable for stealing the Bailey's $8,000.
How dare he? But in today's money, that would be $800 million. So that would be a very different sum of money. Leslie, is this one of the rare unifying factors in society now? Even though he donated a lot of money to Democrats, there are a lot of members of the Democrat Party who don't have a lot of money, who invested in things like crypto and like his exchange, and they lost all of it. Is he our new Tiger King? Is he our new Free Britney? Is this the one thing we can all agree on, that this rat bastard should rot in hell or at least jail?
I think so, because a lot of rich people give to Democratic parties. Donald Trump gave to Democratic parties. I mean, it has nothing to do with politics. What it has to do with is what you said. It's a Ponzi scheme. And what you have is not only people ripped off, but you have criminal action. Of course, the indictments are sealed. We're not going to know tomorrow. We know that not just the feds, the DOJ, but we also know that the SEC was also looking into market manipulation, money that he took from them, transferred to a type of fund that he had set up. I mean, this smells so bad. And as a matter of fact, after we saw what happened with Bernie Madoff, it's amazing. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, that people went along for this ride.
They sure did, but it's pretty easy to buy off politicians. When you're spending millions and millions of dollars lavishing it on the Democrat Party, and you've got Tom Brady and Giselle like, no, this guy's amazing, we totally vouch for him. It's not hard to see how people, it's like Elizabeth Holmes. She spun a great yarn. Like, how wonderful would it be to go into Walgreens and prick your finger and know every disease you might have for the rest of your life? The technology didn't match her wild ambition, so, she's going to the Who's Cow as well. Did you ever buy SBF's really flimsy, stinky alibi?
I didn't even, I'll be totally honest, I didn't know who this guy was until recently. But then when you go back and look at all the coverage he got in the media, in financial media, and then also mainstream media, progressive media, they were fawning over this guy. He was beloved. The adjectives they used to describe him in interviews is incredible. And then you find out that he was a prolific donor, not just to Democratic politicians, but to media companies. He gave money to Vox, to ProPublica, to Semaphore, to many others. And I have to wonder if that is part of the reason why they described him in glowing terms. And then even as the crimes were kind of beginning to be revealed in the last few weeks, I still saw him getting kind of soft coverage. There was a wait-and-see approach, even though it's so obvious that what he did is it's not even though crypto is confusing to a lot of people, what he did doesn't seem very confusing. No. He took money that was for one thing and he spent it on the other thing that was also his, and then lied to people about he was paying them salaries basically based on shares of the company that's not worth anything. So it's very straightforward what he did. It'll be interesting if it, causes more skepticism of crypto. I will note, though, the regulation of crypto was going to be dictated by him. Part of the reason he was giving so much money to Democrats is because he was hoping they would write regulations for crypto that would be favorable to Sam Bankman-Fried. And that's something that should always give us pause. Not saying there should be no regulations or anything like that, but who profits, who benefits, who wants it whatever way it was going to be. He wanted it the way it was going to be. That's where his spending was.
Well, he's going to get it now, but it is a totally different thing where he is going. And you're absolutely right. It was soft coverage, and that's exactly what politically connected people do. They buy those connections so laws can be written in their favor. Thanks, Obama. And thank you, party panel. Gary, Leslie, and Robbie, great job.
See you, Kennedy.
That's what we call breaking news in the industry, folks. Woo!